You know, this new Pikmin 4 game is alright, I guess, but please tell me, where is all of the mediocre 2D platforming? Finally, somebody gets it. Pikmin is a series that is loved by a lot of people, just not enough for the games to consistently sell that great. I'm pretty new to the whole Pikmin scene. I picked up Pikmin 1+2 about a month or two ago and had a blast playing through Pikmin 2. Pikmin 1 was still a good game, but just felt a little light content-wise compared to Pikmin 2. I think that's more of a game I'll have fun with by replaying it a few times. But after getting my hands on Pikmin 4, holy crap. This game may be easier than Pikmin 2, but I still had and am having a blast with this game. I haven't played 3 yet, I fully intend to, but I'm still trying to finish up Pikmin 4. I just got to the post-game and I am very excited to play through that. But what I am basically trying to say with all of this is that I am a Pikmin fan now and want to play as much Pikmin media as I possibly can, which includes this little weird game I've heard about on the 3DS. Hey Pikmin was a weird game released at a weird time. It was released on the 3DS in July of 2017, only a few months after the Nintendo Switch was released. Now, the 3DS is a console that I love and have a lot of amazing memories with, but I will admit that this just wasn't a great time to release 3DS games. Everyone had their eyes on the Switch, which caused games like Hey Pikmin or even Miitopia, a game that I very much enjoy, to sort of just get brushed over. And since Pikmin just isn't a very mainstream series, releasing a new game that isn't anything like the other games, and released on a console that was making its way out, probably wasn't the best idea. It pushed away the main Pikmin audience and also probably wasn't very eye-catching to your average 3DS owner, but in my opinion the most important thing is whether or not the game is actually any good. So let's dust off the old 3DS and get going, because I definitely didn't play this on an emulator. So Hey Pikmin starts off how many Pikmin games do. Our protagonist Captain Olimar is flying through space when suddenly he makes a few oopsies, which ultimately causes him to crash land. After this, his ship tells him that he will need 30,000 Sparklium to restore power to his ship and make his way home. One thing that I did find kind of funny is that Sparklium is one of the main things you are collecting in Pikmin 4, so it's interesting to see that it was actually introduced in this random spin-off. The main gameplay of Hey Pikmin consists of walking through a 2D area and collecting these acorn things or special treasures, which all give you Sparklium in return. Now, in a normal Pikmin game, most of the gameplay is sending your Pikmin to go do something like carry an object or make a bridge or something, but in this game, Pikmin have no home base they carry things back to, or many tasks they can do while you do something else. To collect a treasure, all you have to do is touch it, and it gets teleported back to the ship, which is fine, but just removes a lot of the fun. Normal Pikmin games heavily encourage multitasking, but that's not really even an option in this game. Since this game is a 2D platformer, most of the obstacles that the Pikmin can do anything about are directly in the way of your path forward, so you really don't have anything else to do while they clear the path for you. And then there is the combat, which is definitely similar to other games, but not the same. In most games, Pikmin can latch onto an enemy and attack it even if you don't directly hit the enemy on your first throw. But in this game, if they don't hit the enemy, there is nothing they can do, and most of the time they just walk straight into the enemy and die. And also, from what I can tell, the Pikmin don't even latch onto enemies, so the only thing that matters is just your initial throw, which takes so much of the fun out of Pikmin combat. And then we have Olimar himself, who just doesn't feel that great to control. He moves pretty slow and can't really do all that much. Now, in a normal Pikmin game, that's fine because the focus is on managing your Pikmin and using them to complete tasks, which is still here, but just to a much lesser extent. I never really felt like the strategy elements are fully used in this game, which makes it very easy compared to a game like Pikmin 2 or even most other 2D platformers. Since this game was not fully committed to being a Pikmin game, I was hoping that it would at least commit to the idea of being a 2D platformer, but it doesn't really do that either. Like I said earlier, Olimar moves pretty slow, and since they wanted to keep this somewhat accurate to past Pikmin games, he can't jump either. To make up for this, they give him a jetpack, which is honestly not all that fun to use. Like, I get that they had to give a reason for Olimar to be able to cross gaps and stuff, but if they were willing to give him stuff like a jetpack, why not give him like spring boots that allow him to perform a normal jump? It's fine to make bigger changes like that in my opinion if it makes the game more fun. This game can never really do anything that interesting with platforming because it just doesn't allow itself to. The game can't even really decide if it wants to be more like a normal Pikmin game or not, which just leaves it in this really weird in-between that doesn't fully realize any of its ideas. But even though I have been pretty negative, I mean, it's not really the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't really have a long list of positive things to say about it, but it's not necessarily bad, it's just boring. For the first world, I had a decent time until I realized how repetitive the game really is. Some of that core Pikmin fun is still here, but I just don't think it translated to 2D all that well. I think the core gameplay could work better if they maybe just introduced some more new mechanics throughout the game to keep things fresh. I will say that I found the bosses to be pretty fun and usually had a good time whenever those would come around. Oh yeah, and there's also this Pikmin Park thing where all of your Pikmin go when you beat a level since you can't take them to other levels. Basically, the Pikmin just do repetitive tasks while you go do other things, and it can occasionally get you some Sparklium. As far as the different Pikmin you have access to, we have Red Pikmin, Yellow Pikmin, Blue Pikmin, Rock Pikmin, and Winged Pikmin. Basically just all of the ones available in Pikmin 3. All of the Pikmin act exactly as they do in the other games, but I did find that the Winged and Yellow Pikmin probably worked the best in this game. Since the Winged fly and the Yellow are able to be thrown very far, they are able to make better use of the 2D environments because they are just able to explore more of it. The Winged Pikmin also offer the most interesting levels in my opinion since they are able to pick you up and fly you through the air. One thing that is kind of disappointing is that none of the Pikmin 2 Pikmin are here. It's not a huge deal, but as a fan of the purple Pikmin, it was kind of disappointing to see that they weren't here. Also, having more Pikmin could have allowed them to have more level elements to make the game more interesting. Now, when it comes to the look and theming of the levels, I think the game somewhat succeeds in that area. The levels can look very pretty, but the problem is that it's just never going to be as good as a normal Pikmin game because that aspect of exploration is gone. You're no longer exploring these environments, you're just walking past them to get to your goal. While it's definitely better looking than a new Super Mario Bros. Game, it's not exactly what I would want from a 2D Pikmin game. In this game, once you've seen the first level of a world, you have basically seen the whole thing, which is super disappointing. The game has this interesting setting of being a tiny person in a huge world, and I think the game could have used that to its advantage to give us more interesting level elements, but instead the game is more content with doing enough to where it looks good, but never really engages or interests you. I feel like Pikmin of all series would have the least trouble showing you new places and environments, but this game just never pushes itself to do that, causing the game to feel pretty boring in my opinion. But there was one game I was thinking of the entire time while playing this one. Kirby Mass Attack. The main gimmick of having a bunch of tiny guys to order around while making your way to the end of the level is present in both of these games, which causes them to feel very similar. I actually covered this one a while back, and for those of you who watched it, you probably recall me not being a huge fan of that game. In fact, I had a lot of the same problems with that game as I did in this game, except to a greater degree. That game got very boring very fast because much like this game, it can just feel like you're doing the same things over and over again. But I do think that Hey Pikmin definitely improved upon this concept compared to Mass Attack. Unlike Mass Attack, we have different types of Pikmin to work with, contrary to how Mass Attack just had a bunch of the same Kirbys. Hey Pikmin also introduces a lot more gimmicks compared to Mass Attack, which just keeps the journey more engaging. I feel like in both of these games, you can see some potential for the concept, but in neither is it fully realized. I think that if you want a 2D Pikmin-like game to work, there is one genre that would be perfect for it. Metroidvania. This would allow the game to keep the sense of exploration present in the mainline Pikmin games by having a large 2D world for you to explore. This could also allow the player to find different upgrades and new Pikmin as a reward for exploring, which would be so satisfying. Do I think it will ever happen? No, but it's cool to think about. Overall, do I hate Hey Pikmin? No, not really. I just think that it could have done more, but it was clearly just happy being what it was, which left me feeling like it was overall a pretty boring experience. This is definitely a game that could work if you were just really bored on a long trip or something, but as it stands on its own, I just don't really think it's worth anyone's time. You know, the developers of this game are actually responsible for that one Yoshi game nobody likes, and that. So I'm sure their great track record so far has given you full confidence in them to make the next Sonic game. Please be good.